Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So hopefully we're all feeling alive today, and let's get started with Guru Pranati and followed by the lessons that we'll be learning today. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshitayine. Please join me in the invocation mantra for Srimadbhagavatam. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudiriyet Shravatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shamana Kirtanaha Hridayantasto Bhadrani Vidhunoti Suhatsatam Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatir Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavti Nashtaki. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Today we'll be covering some important lessons that reveal to us where we should be investing our time. Right now, many people in the stock market are having, heart palpitation because of all the ups and downs. And today is all about understanding where we should actually be investing our time, our efforts, and so forth. I quickly share my screen. Hare Krishna. So today we are starting with the 10th verse of the 3rd chapter of 2nd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Akamah sarva kamo va moksha kama udardihi tivrena bhakti yogena yajjate purusham param. Akamah, one who has transcended all material desires. Sarva kama, one who has the sum total of material desires. Va, either. Moksha kamaha, one who desires liberation. Udaradhi, with broader intelligence. Tivrena, with great force. Bhakti yogena, by devotional service to the Lord. Yajata, should worship. Purusham, the Lord. Param, the Supreme Lord. Yajeta Purusham Param. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. A person who has broader intelligence, whether he be full of all material desire, without any material desire, or desiring liberation, must by all means worship the Supreme Whole, the personality of Godhead. Purport. Devi, over to you for the purport. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. All right, so Prabhuji, am I correct? This is one of the 4 verses you will be sharing today, and this verse has 3 paragraphs in the purport.
Yes.
And for the rest of the verse, we will not read the purport, we'll just do the translations.
Yes.
So everybody has the understanding. Okay, so the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna, is described in the Bhagavad Gita as Purushottam, or the Supreme Personality. It is He who only can award liberation to the impersonalists by absorbing such aspirants in the Brahma Jyoti, the bodily rays of Lord. The Brahma Jyoti is not separate from the Lord, as the glowing sun ray is not independent of the sun disk. Therefore, one who desires to merge into the supreme impersonal Brahmajyoti must also worship the Lord by Bhakti Yoga, as recommended here in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhakti Yoga is especially stressed here as the means of all perfection. In the previous chapters, it has been stated that Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate goal of both Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga, and in the same way, in this chapter, it is emphatically declared that Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate goal of the different varieties of worship of different demigods. Bhakti Yoga, thus being the supreme means of self realization, is recommended here. Everyone must therefore seriously take up the methods of Bhakti Yoga, even though one aspires for material enjoyment or liberation from material bondage. Prabhuji, you can read next paragraph.
Hare Krishna. A kama is one who has no material desire. A living being naturally being the part and parcel of the Supreme Whole Purusham Puram has as his natural function to serve the Supreme Being, just as the parts and parcels of the body, all limbs of the body, are naturally meant to serve the complete body. Desireless means, therefore, not to be inert like the stone, but to be conscious of one's actual position and thus desire satisfaction only from the Supreme Lord. Srila Jiva Goswami has explained this desirelessness as Bhajaniya Paramapurusha Sukhamatra Swa Sukhatvam in his Sandarbha. This means that one should feel happy only by experiencing the happiness of the Supreme Lord. This intuition of the living being is sometimes manifested even during the conditioned stage of the living being in the material world, and such intuition is expressed in the manner of altruism, philanthropy, socialism, communism, etc., by the undeveloped minds of less intelligent persons. In the mundane field, such an outlook of doing good to others in the form of society, community, family, country, or humanity is a partial manifestation of the same original feeling in which a pure living entity feels happiness by the happiness of the Supreme Lord. Such super feelings were exhibited by the damsels of Vrajbhumi for the happiness of the Lord. The gopis loved the Lord without any return, and this is the perfect exhibition of the akama spirit. Kama spirit, or the desire for one's own satisfaction, is fully exhibited in the material world, whereas the spirit of akama is fully exhibited in the spiritual world. Hare Krishna. Actually, two more paragraphs.
Okay.
Devi?
So, thoughts of becoming one with the Lord or being merged in the Brahmajyoti can also be exhibitions of calm spirit if they are desires for one's own satisfaction to be free from the material miseries. A pure devotee does not want liberation so that he may be relieved from the miseries of life. Even without so called liberation, a pure devotee is aspirant for the satisfaction of the Lord. Influenced by the calm spirit, Arjun declined to fight in the Kurukshetra battlefield because he wanted to save his relatives for his own satisfaction. But being a pure devotee, he agreed to fight on the instruction of the Lord because he came to his senses and realized that satisfaction of the Lord at the cost of his own satisfaction was his prime duty. Thus he became a calm. That is the perfect stage of perfect living being. Udardhi means one who has broader outlook. People with desires for material enjoyment worship small demigods, and such intelligence is condemned in the Bhagavad Gita as Hrit Gyan, the intelligence of one who has lost his senses. One cannot obtain any result from demigods without getting sanction from the Supreme Lord. Therefore, a person with a broader outlook can see that the ultimate authority is the Lord, even for material benefits. Under the circumstances, one with a broader outlook, even with the desire for material enjoyment or for liberation, should take to the worship of Lord directly. And everyone, whether an akam or sakam, may be perfectly should worship the Lord with great expedience. This implies that Bhakti Yoga may be perfectly administered without any mixture of karma and jnana, as unmixed sun ray is very forceful and is therefore called Tivra. Similarly, unmixed Bhakti Yoga of hearing, chanting, etc., may be performed by one and all regardless of inner motive. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. We'll do the translation of the other verses and then please join us. So, verse 17, same chapter. Both by rising and by setting, the sun decreases the duration of life of everyone except one who utilizes the time by discussing topics of the all good personality of Godhead. So, what do we understand from this? Previous one was that in all stages of life, we should take to the devotional service. And here, those who don't take, they are having a big loss. And what about people who don't listen to the glories of the Supreme Lord? Men who are like dogs, hawks, camels, and asses praise those men who never listen to the transcendental pastimes of Lord Shri Krishna, the deliverer from evils. And verse 24 talks about certainly, even when we have taken to devotional service, there should be transformation. Certainly, that heart is still framed, which, in spite of once chanting the holy name of the Lord with concentration, does not change when ecstasy takes place. Tears fill the eyes and the hairs stand on end. So, key aspect is ecstasy. And who can take to devotional service? Just like in the first stage was the mood, but here it is described. Kirat, Huna, Andhra, Pulinda, Pulkasha, Abhira, Shumbha, Yavana, members of the Khasa races, and even others addicted to sinful acts can be purified by taking shelter of the devotees of the Lord due to his being the supreme power. I beg to offer my respectful obeisances unto him. And the speaker here is Sutta Goswami. Hare Krishna. So please join in the recitation of Guru Pranati and seek blessings from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshitayine Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripa tadaham vande Shri Gurum Dina Taranam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Welcome to today's session. And I would like to present these 5 verses with the perspective of being alive. What does alive mean? Yes, in this particular chapter earlier, Sutta Goswami is describing that when people want different kind of things in their life, they take to different worship of different demigods. But those who have broad intelligence, those whose intelligence has not been stolen away by Maya, they take to the worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yajyate Purusham Param. And so what do we have to do? In short, we have to just absorb in Harikatha, live simply, introspect and improve ourselves, not seek to improve others, but ourselves. It's self-improvement's journey. And we should value the association of pure devotees and finally engage in service. So this is from the spiritual vitality. I would like to present this framework of a life today. So this verse, Akama sarva kamava mokshikama udaradhi tivrena bhakti yogena yajate purusham param. So this verse is helping us understand that Srila Prabhupada starts with the translation by saying a person who has broader intelligence, whether he has akama, no desire, which means no material desire. We cannot be without desire because that's the uh, nature of the soul to always have desire. But what kind of desire? Not for sense gratification, but for Krishna's scientific gratification. So again, to give pleasure to Krishna for the happiness of Lord Krishna. So Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate. So all kind of services should be done for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that is the goal of bhakti. Bhakti, devotional service is not for our, pleasure, but it is for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. Many times when we are saying kirtan, we see that people who are new to bhakti process, they are coming to enjoy the kirtan, which is perfectly fine. But that also shows us that actually they are, more into their own entertainment and less into the pleasure of the Lordship, which actually reminds me of a beautiful story. So near Srirangam area, and in Srirangam, Lord's Ranganath, his temple is there, and many people would go to Ranganath temple and worship the Lord. And there was once, Bhagavad Saptaha. Srila Prabhupada said that there shouldn't be like something like Bhagavad Saptaha. What is that? This Bhagavad Saptaha of Parikshit Maharaj was to attain liberation, but sometimes people go to Bhagavad Saptaha sessions just to hear for 1 or 2 hours, some pravachan, some uh, glories of the Lord, not continuously like in Srimad Bhagavatam. The Bhagavad Saptaha of Srimad Bhagavatam was going on non-stop for 7 days, 7 nights. And the result was that the listener, who's Parikshit Maharaj, and the speaker, Shukdev Goswami, both attained perfection just by engaging in this hearing and chanting of the holy names, the glories of Lord Shri Krishna. Kirtan means glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there was an old lady, she had her son, whose name was Mohan. Sometimes, Mohan, Lord's name, people, name their children after God's name. Like our younger son, he's Govind. So she was completely dependent on her son Mohan, and her son had no interest in his spiritual matters. Yet at the same time, it was said that a very great devotee of the Lord, a sage, was visiting the temple of Sri Ranganath at Srirangam, and he would be giving a Bhagavad Saptaha 7-day discourse on Srimad Bhagavatam. She wanted to go and attend it. So she somehow persuaded her son to, you know, take her, because being an old lady, it's very difficult for her to go. She needs someone to take her. And of course, the son is right there. And this son of hers had a pet parrot, and he was very negligent even towards the parrot, forgets to give the water and grains to the parrot. And she had to remind him that, hey, it's morning. Have you given food to the parrot? Have you given water to the parrot? So, anyway, uh, day one, he takes her. He's very reluctant. And somehow during the journey in India, means again, this was back in the days where there were not so many cars and people were still using public transportation. So during the journey, she somehow persuaded him to hear Harikatha. And so he was reluctant, but he agreed, said, I'll be there anyway for the whole day. What should I do? At least I should hear whatever is being uh, discussed. But he was not very much inclined, Shushu Shadda Dhanasya. So we get interest Syan Mahasevya Viprashushu Shaddadhanasya. When we serve the devotees of the Lord, then we get interest in hearing about the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here, Shravanam is also a quality that we get when we are serving the devotees. Hare Krishna. So this old lady, you know, she sees her son who is there, and she's saying that he's not really listening. He's sitting as if, he's listening. Sometimes people are silent and then some people are listening. The interesting is silent and listen. They have the same letters but arranged in a different order, and it makes a gulf of difference. A person may appear to be silent while a person may be listening, so they're two different things. Outwardly, you cannot distinguish. But this son of hers, you could see that he's yawning and he's falling asleep and he's looking elsewhere, he's looking at his watch. So she knew that he's not so much inclined, but hopefully over a period of time, he'll become inclined, hoping this. Second day happens the same day. So now when she goes back home every day, she would discuss the topics on the dinner table, during जब हम लोग प्रसाद पाते हैं, at that time when we are honoring the prasadam, she would discuss what was covered in the discourses so the other family members would hear. But she would pay attention that her son is not very much paying attention. However, the parrot is paying attention to what is being said. And similarly, the days are passing, first day, second day, third day, fourth day. On the fifth day in the morning, when she reminds him to feed the grains and water to the parrot said, actually, could you ask the sage something for me? So Mohan becomes surprised. The parrot is talking and he's talking about asking something to the sage. So he just laughs. The parrot says, no, no, please ask him, how can I be liberated from this cage? And then Mohan just laughs about it. It's like, oh, this parrot is just crazy. And he goes there, takes his mother to the, you know, Ranganath temple, Srirangam, and he's hearing the whole pravachan, the whole discourse on Srimadbhagavatam for that day. And but he doesn't ask the question. So when they come back, the parrot asks, "Did you ask the question?" And he says, "No, this is ridiculous." But mother hears him saying that, because this parrot had a question, her son did not ask. So she's chastised her son. She said, "Wait a minute, you're not doing anything. Why don't you at least do some service for the parrot? You have this parrot, you have your pet. And if it's so dear, you should at least take his query to the question, this inquiry to the sage." And so the parrot would be very happy. So nevertheless, on sixth day, Mohan, he approaches at the end of the discourse the sage and the sage says, "How are you?" He's saying, "I'm doing wonderful." And the sage asks him, "Do you have a question?" He says, "Well, actually, I don't have a question, but my parrot has a question." The sage smiles and he says, "Yes, what is the question?" So Mohan, he just repeats word for word. He says, "My parrot wants to know when he will be liberated from the cage." And as soon as the sage hears it, he falls flat on the ground. And now, just seeing the sage has fallen flat on the ground, his eyes are closed, there is no movement of the body. Everyone's thinking the sage is dead. All the organizers are coming, they are moving people away from there, because one thing that happens is every time there's an accident, while the person who is facing that difficult situation, there's a tendency of other people to just hoard around that person, and the oxygen supply reduces. That should be just the opposite of what should happen. People should give space to that person so that the person can breathe. And after some time, they are able to bring sage back to his consciousness. Nothing has happened to the sage. They are happy to see that. But in this moment, when Mohan sees that I asked this question, and this sage just felt unconscious, he just fell instantly. And it took some time to revive him back to consciousness. So he was shaken by this uh, experience. So when he comes back home, he's not speaking much, and his mother is again discussing about the day topics and so forth. So next morning, on this sixth day, when the parrot is asking, like, "Did you ask the question?" This is in the evening. "Did you ask the question?" He says, "Yes, I asked the question, but a ghastly scene happened." The parrot said, "What happened?" He said, "Actually, the sage, he just fell unconscious. And it took us some time to revive him back to his consciousness." So the parrot says, "Oh, I got my answer." Now, Mohan doesn't understand it, what the answer is. So on the sixth day in the morning, when he is giving the food and grain, what he sees is that his parrot has fallen on the ground. It's on in this at the bottom of the cage. It's not moving or anything. So he gets worried. He opens the door of the cage, and what happens? The parrot immediately wakes up and flies out of the cage. And Mohan is shocked. He is so surprised, he doesn't even wait for his mother. He just runs to the temple. He goes and sees the sage, and the sage sees him like he's panting, he's trying to catch his breath. He didn't even take the bus, he just ran. He wanted to see the sage so much. And he said, very strange thing happened. Sage said, what happened? He says, I asked you that question and you fell unconscious. When I told my parent in the morning, I saw that my parent was unconscious at the floor of the cage. And as soon as I opened the gate of the cage, it woke up and flew out of the cage. The sage smiled. He said, you have been attending my discourses, the Srimadbhagavatam discourses for last 6 days, but you didn't learn anything. And I just passed on one instruction to the parrot, and the parrot understood it. And now it is liberated from your cage. And Mohan is somewhat perplexed, but he's still having this question is, okay, I didn't understand, and the parrot is gone. What does it mean? The sage actually reveals to him that the Srimad Bhagavatam discourses are not for our entertainment, but they should cause revolution in our lives. They should cause transformation. And this is something my dear devotees will be covering in today's class as well. That these verses, they are not just interesting stories or interesting conversations that people should be having. And so people who have broad intelligence, what should they do? If they have no material desires, but only desire to please Lord Krishna, and the beautiful example in the purport is that of the gopis. Gopis did all their actions for the pleasure of Krishna. Sometimes some of the elderly gopis, they would say to Krishna, Lalla, when he was toddler, why don't you dance and we'll give you sweets, laddus and burfis and so forth. And so Krishna would dance. And we all understand that when we dance, we become very happy, very jubilant and all that. So they were not for their entertainment asking Krishna. They wanted, and they wanted to encourage Krishna and glorify Krishna, clapping him, on a beat and so forth. So Krishna would feel very happy. It was for the pleasure of Krishna. And then after that also, they would give sweets to Krishna, which will also make you very happy. And that is the focus, that akama, not having desire for sense gratification, for material desire for oneself, but for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. And we see that the devotees, when they are in the kirtan, they are singing and dancing, glorifying and praying to the Lord for Lord's pleasure. Asking for service is also so that we can please the Lord. When we chant the holy name, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. When we are chanting the holy name, it is also a prayer where we are praying that, my dear Lord Krishna, my dear Mother Hara, we approach through Mother, the Father. So the Father, we don't directly go to the Father, we go through the Mother. So Hara represents Radharani. And when with love, when we are calling out, we call Hare. We call her, the mother as Radharani as Hare instead of Hara. And we are saying, dear Mother Hare and Lord Krishna, please engage us in your devotional service. Excuse me. So that is a karma state. But then what about people who have all kind of material desires? What should they do? Should they go and approach different demigods? Yes, in this particular chapter, second, third verse onward, it is said that one who wants different material desires, they should worship so and so demigods. But here, one who has broader intelligence, whose intelligence has not been stolen away by material energy, by Maya, they should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because what happens is the purification happens in due course. So when we worship the demigods, even the demigods, whatever they are sanctioning, it's coming because of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. And but at the same time, we are still getting more and more bound in material desires, because just by asking, it's like pouring ghee in fire and hoping the fire would die out. No, the fire becomes more strong when that happens. So this particular verse is revealing that when even if we have all kind of material desires, some total of all material desires, whatever we want, whatever we can have, we should still, with great enthusiasm, with great energy, with great just, we should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We should engage in devotional service. Why? Because yes, our desires may or may not get fulfilled, but only what is beneficial for us, that would happen. And on top of that, we'll get purified. Our desires will get purified. So we'll understand the higher purpose of life. And moksha kama, one who has liberation. So there are five kinds of mokshas. So again, this is referring mainly to the Sayujya Mukti, merging into Brahman. Even if one wants to merge into Brahman, which is the goal of the Jnanis, the Brahmavadis, and when they are looking for sense gratification perspective, then they are referred to as Mayavadis, the materialist, because they want to become God. Srila Prabhupada says you cannot become God. You can become godly. But why become God when you can become greater than God? And here's the example. Mother Yashoda is binding Lord Krishna. She is greater because Lord agrees to be bound by her love. The robe represents actually her love. So when we are seeking to please the Lord, we are not looking for Sayajya Mukti liberation, but the materialist Mayavadis, they are seeking that. To become God. They're thinking that that's becoming God. But in reality, that's like sun rays to sun. And Brahman is not Krishna. Brahman is coming from Krishna. So this effulgence, it has its origin, which is Krishna. So here, from that perspective, we understand that even those people should engage in devotional service. And Shripa Shankaracharya, a great Acharya, who's an incarnation of Lord Shiva, he himself says, Vaj Govindam, Govindam Vaja Mudamate. So he's saying that engage in devotional service. Bhaj is more close to devotional service than worship of Lord Govinda. Govindam Bhaja Mudamate, one who is dull-headed. He's actually in a way of chastising, but in a sweet way, in a loving way. He's saying that even if you are a fool, you should engage in worshipping Lord Govinda, Lord Krishna. So this is universal applicability that we understand. So this particular verse is emphasizing that in all states of life, we should engage in devotional service to the Supreme Lord. And that is the recommended path. That is the path for our benefit. And what would be the result of this? That the purification will happen through devotion. So Srila Prabhupada says, one of his quotes is, even if one has material desires, if one worships Krishna, one will gradually become purified. And my Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj Srila Bhagavad Pad, he also says that approach Krishna with whatever desires you have. He will transform them. So that's very important. Lord is so merciful that He accepts even our impure offerings and purifies us. Desiring Krishna is the beginning of all auspiciousness. This is for our benefit. When we aspire for Krishna, all our aspirations, they just fade away. And the path of bhakti is open to all, regardless of our initial motivation. So the first A is for basically aspiring, right? Aspire for the Supreme, for the Supreme's pleasure. And then comes the next verse. Ayurharti vaipum samudyanastam chayannasau tasyate yakshano nita uttam shloka vartaya. Ayurharti vaipum sam. So what takes away our life? With the udyan, rising, astam, setting of what? And asau. Asau refers to sun. With the rising of the sun and the setting of the sun, the life is taken away. But of whose? One who is not, utilizing the time by discussing the topics of all good personality of Godhead. Tasya yat shanonita uttam shloka vartaya. So this is where we are conversing, we are discussing the glories of the all good personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. So those who don't engage, their lifespan is being stolen away. It's been taken away. So when many people, they understand time is money, right? Yet at the same time, the richest people in the world, they are always fear of running out of time. They have a lot of money, but they don't have time, which is kind of like very interesting aspect that they are understanding, but then they do not know how to apply it right. Because as Kunti Devi, she says, Janmeshwarya Shutashi Viredimana Madha Puman Nevar Hatya Vidhatum Vaitam Akinchanam Gocharam. Janma Aishwarya Shutashi Vir. Higher birth, Aishwarya, great opulence, which is the case of rich people. Shuta, one who are very learned, and Shibhir, who are very beautiful. These kind of men, when they're Madha Puman, when they are very proud of these characteristics, any of these, or many of these characteristics, Nevahatya Vidatum Tama Kinchara Gocharam. They cannot approach the Supreme Lord Krishna in the proper mood. While the same Lord can easily be approached by one who has none of these. A kincha, one who has no other shelter, no other abilities, but who has just devotion in their heart. So this also glorifies when she is saying that you don't need any material qualification to approach Supreme Lord. And this is going to become very clear in the coming verses. So the only valuable asset we have is time, and especially in this human form of life, which is very rare. So we have to engage our time in engaging in the discussions of the Lord, name, form, activities, pastimes of Lord Krishna. That is the meaningful time. Now, when we go for investing something, when we invest, means materialists, they're investing in heavy labor all throughout the day and gossiping throughout the evenings and some kind of entertainment with the fallen soldiers, which is the family members. They are just spending away their time. What is the return? No return. They just get some enough feeling that yes, Srila Prabhupada in the purport that we read today, he is saying that yes, our nature is anandbhaya abhyasat. We are always seeking happiness. But in the material world, we are looking at happiness outside in the wrong places. Like an animal in the desert is chasing mirages after mirages. Similarly, people are engaging with the family members and doing various kind of sense gratifying activities just to feel, pleasure. And in Nectar Devotion, Srila Prabhupada explains this very nicely, that when a baby is born, it immediately attaches its relationship with the parents on a bodily level. And then later on, it expands to loving exchange with the siblings, brothers and sisters, then further to the community, then to the society, then to the nation. So there's various kind of isms, which is an expansion of our sense gratification attitude. It is not the spiritual aspect, it's the material aspect, because we are thinking on this body. And thus, anything relating to the body, we are getting more and more attached to it. And we become envious of those who are, at a better state, better position than us, and become lustful because everything that belongs to us. So, aham mameti. This also explains. So, time is very valuable. We should spend it meaningfully. Now, how do devotees spend the time? Don't we see a sunrise and sunset? Yes, we do see sunrise and sunset. But we are getting in return eternal time by going back home, back to Godhead. That is the return in our investment. When we are engaging in the pleasure of Lord Krishna, then Lord gives us opportunities so that we can eternally engage in pleasing Lord Krishna, and Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Uchate. So when we satisfy the Lord as He desires, Anukulina Krishna Anushilina, following the examples or instructions of our predecessors, acharyas in disciplic succession, of course, then we experience immense pleasure. We experience ecstasy and bliss. So that is for our eternal benefit. While time diminishes one's lifespan, using it in Krishna consciousness grants eternal benefits. Now that is a trade exchange we should try to understand. And Srila Prabhupada, he actually instructs us that every moment should be utilized in Krishna consciousness. And my Guru Maharaj, he is saying that time is the most valuable asset. Invest it in devotion. We all know about Alexander the Great. When he came across Sindh River, he was caught by malaria. He was defeating so many big warriors, a little mosquito defeated him. And he was asking, I'll give you all the gold, just give me some more time. And the Vaidyas, the doctors of that time, they're like, we cannot give you a moment more than what you have. So that is the true fact. Sometimes people with material consciousness, they have to face these hard facts. But on the other hand, the devotees, they understand that they spend their time in the right manner. And what is awaiting them? The eternal life of happiness in service of Lord Krishna. Which means that when we are serving Lord Krishna, when we engage in devotional service, we should do it with attention, affection, attraction, and all happiness, from the perspective that this is for the pleasure of Krishna, and automatically in return, my senses will experience eternal bliss. But when we do it with feeling, our senses then feel it. So that's something that we'll be visiting today as well. Now, we talked about aspire for the pleasure of the Lord. We should, L is for live in the present moment. So this is living in the present moment, spending the present time, not thinking of the time that has passed or expecting for the future, which is a dream. And then I refers to identify real heroes. Now, who are the real heroes? So that is in the next verse. Savidvara hostra kare samstuta purusha pashu nas yat karno patho petyo jatu nam gada grajaha. So men who are like dogs, hogs, camels, and asses praise those men who never listen to the transcendental pastimes of Lord Shri Krishna, the deliverer from evils. And of course, what is evil? We understand it in one form. Jan Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Doshanudashna. So the misses of life are normally represented with the birth, death, old age, and disease, the repeated cycle that we are constantly going through. But those people who never engage in the transcendental pastime, the glorification of Lord Krishna, they may be very eloquent speakers, sometimes even good at giving Bhagavatam classes, but they are not doing it for the pleasure of Krishna, but they are doing it for their own self glorification. And those people who praise such people that are never talking in the transcendental pastimes of Lord Krishna, even those who are good speakers but not looking for glorification, even when they engage in devotional service, they get purified over a period of time and they become devotees. But those who never talk about the transcendental pastimes of Lord Krishna, they, you know, have no benefit coming. And those who are their followers, those who are glorifying them, they are referred to as vid, which is dog. Now, when we look at dog, it's a very harsh word because in today's time, the education system is like they're just creating human beings to become qualified like dogs so that they go and from using the degrees and certificates, they go from door to door asking for job and better facilities and so forth, and not understanding what's the true purpose of life is. So today's society is making a man how to become a good dog, how to become a faithful servant of a material master who is going to exploit this servant. Hogs is, Varaha. Varaha refers to hogs, which is pigs, and they eat all kind of abominable things. Now, we human beings are meant to eat grains, fruits, vegetables, all auspicious things. But then, when man had become hogs, they eat all kind of abominable things. As a concession, Srila Prabhupada says that we have been given two canine teeth. That is only referring to those people who have the tendency of eating animal flesh. But that is not our true nature. In reality, these canine teeth were given when we are trying to eat ganna. What do we say ganna in English?
Sugarcane.
Sugarcane. Thank you, Devi. Yeah, when we are eating, then this canine teeth become useful. So many times when we are, splitting things, then the canine teeth have purpose. So, and hostra is camels. Camels have the tendency that sometimes they will eat thorny branches, and these thorns will pierce their gums and their tongue and their, inside of their mouths, and they would think, oh, they would taste their blood and think, oh, this is very sweet, they're very sweet. They don't know that actually they are drinking their own blood. And actually, these thorns are causing a lot of pain to them. They get attracted to the taste of the blood. So that is the state. Sometimes people are engaging in all these abominable activities, which is very painful, but they are deriving pleasure in these tough activities, very difficult activities. And khare are like asses. As is again a donkey knows that it can, when it doesn't know actually. Uh, so those who don't know, just like donkeys don't know that you can get grass anywhere, but takes on heavy load by its master and serves its master. And when he approaches the female donkey, female ass, she kicks him, and still he goes and approaches her. So this is the state of a donkey, a dull person, that they are running after wine women and money, and at the same time they are spending away their life doing in all kind of heavy endeavors. So we should understand that these are the quality of people who are audience to those people who never glorify Lord Krishna, who is the only resort to deliver from the evils. And again, we have to understand this integrity of thoughts as per and identify who the real heroes are. These people who are never glorifying the Lord are not the real heroes, but rather the ones who are always glorifying the Lord. But when we are hearing these wonderful glories of Lord Krishna, we should feel some transformation, which is understanding the value of devotional emotions. Tadasmasaram hridaya batedam yad grahamane harinam deya hai न विक्रियेताथ यदा विकारो नेत्रे jalam गातरुहेषु हर्षः. Certainly that heart is still framed, which in spite of one's chanting the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, with concentration, does not change when ecstasy takes place. Tears fill the eyes and the hairs stand on end. So, this is where we understand that there should be an emotional response. It is not just that we are moving our tongue and trying to hear, we should be saying it with a heartfelt mood that I want devotional service. And when devotional service comes, our tendency is to grasp it with both our hands and keep it close to our heart. But what do people do? They're like passing out to someone else. No, no, and they are not doing it nicely. They don't have their heart in it. That's something we understand. So there is a warning sign identified that this is a lack of emotional reaction that may suggest that we need deeper sincerity and devotion with greater feelings, with greater surrender, level of surrender. So, devotional service, as Srila Prabhupada says, should melt one's heart. And if there is no transformation, we must question our sincerity. That is very important. My Guru Maharaj, he would talk about many things, and he would even say that emotions in bhakti are natural and we should let them flow. And when we have a steel framed heart, it resists Krishna's mercy. So we want to receive Krishna mercy. So we have to understand how to receive Krishna mercy. That is understanding the value of devotional emotions. So we should not be sentimentalists, but we should let the emotion flow when we are in a prayerful mood with a heartfelt manner when we are going on. And who can? So we have talked about devotional service can be taken up by people with different mindsets, but sometimes people have this understanding not only the four varnas should be able to embrace this devotional service, but actually this is E is for embracing universality. So again, universally, anybody and everybody should be able to take. And in this regard, Sutta Goswami is revealing this amazing verse. Kirat Hurandra Pulinda Pulkasha Bhir Shumbha Yavana Kasadhayaha Ye Anye Cha Papa Yadapashramashayaha Shuddhyanti Tasmai Prabha Vishnave Namaha. So various kind of races which are even below the Shudra stage. Kirat, Huna, Andhra, Pulinda, Pulkasha, Abhir, Shumbha, Yavanaha, and Khasadeha. Khasa race as well as all other race which are engaged in sinful acts. They are very offensive, very cruel, and they are very sinful by their act. They do a lot of cheating, they rob people, they are engaged in all kind of abominable activities. Even these different people from these races, when they take shelter of a devotee of the Lord, due to, the Lord is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but a devotee, they can purify even people from these different races. And so we should always pay obeisances, offer our respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord, Lord Krishna. So this is all about universal inclusivity. Devotional service is accessible to all and regardless of background or past actions. And this is transformative power of the devotees of the Lord. Lord's mercy flows through his devotees. Yes, we talk about this all the time. And Srila Prabhupada, he says that even the most sinful can be purified by taking shelter of the devotees of the Lord. And he showed by his own preaching and example. My Guru Maharaj, he would always say that no one is excluded from the mercy of the Lord, provided that person does take the shelter of the Lord, so again, and his devotees. So today I talked about a life framework. This is for spiritual vitality. We should always absorb in Hari Katha, always engage in devotional service. So absorb our senses, our mind, our very existence in the glorification of Lord Krishna. L is for, living simply, but from the perspective that we are constantly seeking to take shelter of the Lord, and love in devotional service is invoked when we live in the present moment. And that way, that's the best investment. L is to live in the present moment. I refers to identify real heroes, not the false heroes who are good speakers, but they never talk about the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, but understand who the real heroes are. And V refers to that we should value devotional emotions. We should not try to fake the emotions. Sometimes we see that people, while we see the examples of Sanatana Goswami and Haridas Thakur, they would hide the emotions in the presence of people. But people, when they read this verse, that the heart is still frame if the tears don't flow from the eyes, the ecstatic symptoms, the 9 kind, they don't appear, the goosebumps, the hair don't stand on the end. So they try to create those kind of emotion in front of people just to gather, get some glorification out there, showing that how great devotees they are. Yes, sometimes devotees, they do show those emotions like Haridas Thakur. Once he showed this, and then the speaker became, he became offensive, thinking that Haridas Thakur is just doing it to make a big show and trying to take away the attention from the speaker to himself. So we should not try do even Janapra. We should not do anything like that. Don't offend anyone. And finally, E refers to that we should embrace universality. So again, this is universal principle. So we should embrace that anybody can take to devotional service. So in this way, we should always stay spiritually alive, alert, loyal, inwardly connected, vigilant, and ego-free. And we should not waste this rare human birth. Over to you, Devi. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for these wonderful lessons, the essence from these verses, which were covered from Canto 2, Chapter 3. And so I will quickly do a recap, summarize some of the wonderful lessons we have learned today from these verses. So, wow, these verses are just so beautiful. And Srimadbhagavatam has such powerful and inclusive teachings that shows how bhakti yoga or devotional service is the universal path for everyone, regardless of their desires. You started with that verse, with whatever desires anybody has. Akama sarva kamova. Whether one has no desires, all material desires, or desires liberation, a wise person should worship Supreme Lord Krishna with intense devotional service or bhakti yoga. So it's a great hope and comfort in all stages of life to know that bhakti is for everyone and it fulfills and purifies all the hearts. Practically speaking, we don't have to wait to be perfect to begin bhakti. We can all start wherever we are, even if we have mixed desires. We can offer our daily actions, our thoughts, our emotions to the Supreme Lord. We can cook, work, care for family, but it can all be bhakti when done with the intention to please Krishna. So, dear devotees, we can begin the day with intentional chanting, knowing it's the most potent purifier, no matter what is our internal state. And then there was this beautiful 17th verse in Canto 2, Chapter 3. Prabhuji explained that eyes not used to see the deity of the Lord are like peacock feathers, beautiful but purposeless. So we should use our sight, our vision for darshan. We should look at the deity pictures of Krishna, of the saintly souls, reading from the holy books, and like that. And then the ears that don't hear Krishna Katha are like useless snake holes. And so that's pretty strong. But the message we are getting is dedicate our time to hear spiritual lectures, shlokas, bhajan. We should try to turn our idle time into Sravanam time as much as possible. And then the heart which does not melt upon hearing Lord's glories is like iron, unfeeling and hard. So that's okay. If we get tears, if we cry, if we smile, if we long, if we go through all these feelings while chanting or hearing about Krishna, because a soft heart is the part of real bhakti. Prabhuji, I really liked you gave so many examples from Damodar Leela also. So, like we usually do, I normally summarize everything with, though Prabhuji covered everything, but I try to see if I can add something from day-to-day application, practical application. So beginning from morning, we can find some moments to look at the deities or picture of Krishna. We can pay obeisances, pranam, and we can chant for a few minutes. This engages our eyes, body, and tongue. And then as we get busy with our daily routine, offering bhoga, our thoughts and actions, our mentality to Krishna, this helps cultivate devotion in daily life. And then if we commute to the work or if we do our household work or other kind of services, let us find moments to listen to Kirtan, Srimadbhagavatam, discourses by devotees, because it purifies our ears and heart. And as the day progresses to evening, let us try to read one verse or few verses and listen few minutes of Krishna Katha to stay connected so that our heart stays connected and is soft. And in this way, we can find some time during the week to attend with the devotees some kind of satsang and share and absorb the devotion collectively. So again and again, Prabhupada is beautifully identifying throughout Srimad Bhagavatam that the senses are meant to serve the Supreme Lord. And when they are engaged in Krishna's service, even in small ways, then life becomes spiritually meaningful and joyful. And that's the purpose of these sessions of, nectar verses, the gems from Srimad Bhagavatam. Hopefully these reminders are helping everyone. And no matter where, you start, bhakti is the path to heart's full potential. So at this point, if anybody has any reflections, any comments, any questions, you can please raise your hand and we will call you out. We can all chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra once together. Please unmute. And at the end of that, we will check if anybody has to say anything. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram,
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Hare.
So Prabhuji, You can wrap up the Srimadbhagavatam session.
Thank you, Devi. Thank you, wonderful devotees, for joining today. Kantra Srimadbhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Bhagavatam ki jai, Ananta Kori Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari.
Hari Bol.
Om Tat Sat. Have a wonderful day in Krishna consciousness. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.